to begin. Good morning, everybody. You're very welcome to this IT at Cork webinar Tech Talk. A bit unusual and a bit different from our in-person ones, but a great way to connect with more of you further away. My name is Ita O'Sullivan. I'm a member of the IT at Cork Tech Talk Committee, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here on behalf of the committee for this early morning webinar. You can find out more about IT at Cork at www.itcork.ie. And I'm going to start with an apology from Owen O'Mahony, our cluster manager for IT at Cork, who was meant to be moderating this morning's discussion, but really ironically is having broadband issues this morning. So I stepped in, and the great news is it doesn't matter what the moderator is like, because we've got three great panelists to introduce you to in a moment. And they've got great stories to tell about how they're bringing the fight, the innovative fight to COVID-19. So good news story at a time where we don't see too much good news. So actually we'll start on a bit of a good news story and just talk very quickly about how we're doing with our innovation. And actually, Ireland, in terms of innovation, is reportedly performing quite well. So there's a UN Health Innovation Index, and Ireland is actually ranked 6th in the world for countries responding best to COVID-19. So that's a really great piece of information to start this talk with. And I suppose really that's down to the entrepreneurs and companies that we have, and maybe that innovative spirit we foster in Ireland. So people have either evolved, changed, pivoted their products and service offerings as a result of COVID-19, or in some cases brought new innovations to COVID-19. So you'll see there are polls popping up on the screen. We're going to have 4 of these throughout the Tech Talk. They're just to measure sentiment and get a bit of feedback from our audience. So you'll see they don't last very long at all, but they're a good way just to catch some thoughts and opinions. So we'll give you a few more seconds of that poll, and then we'll pop into our first question. Oh, I like to do the health and safety bit before we start. For once, we don't have to tell you where the emergency exits are. You should know. But we should just say that we are recording this session and that we'll make it available to our members and the general public. We've already seen our first poll. There are going to be 3 more of those during the Tech Talk. And there will be a Q&A towards the end of the talk, so you'll have the opportunity to ask the panelists questions. You can put your questions directly through the Q&A tab, and we'll keep those till about 8:45, and we'll aim to get through as many as possible. So then finally, a big thank you to IMS Solutions, who are supporting us in hosting this webinar, and you can find out more about them at imedia.ie. Okay, so let's get down to the talk. So we've got 3 great panelists, and what I'm going to do now today is ask each of them to introduce themselves. So I think we'll start with the person with a giant drone in the background. Bobby Healy, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks, Ida. So I'm Bobby Healy. I'm the founder and CEO of a business called Mana Drone Delivery, and that's one of our drones behind me. We're building a business that's VC backed, based in Wales and in Dublin, that essentially uses drones to transport lightweight goods around local communities. So we're carrying food, medicine, anything you need from everywhere in your local community directly to your back or front gardens.
Super, thanks, Bobby. And Caroline Walsh, would you like to introduce yourself next, please?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Caroline Walsh, and I head up the digital product team in Musgrave. So Musgrave is a 6th generation family business. I'm sure many of you will know, with strong values and a commitment to partnering with and supporting other family business. We're Ireland's leading food, retail and wholesale business, and we currently own 11 food brands on the island of Ireland and in Spain. We export the very best of Irish produce globally through our partnerships, and on the retail side, many of you will know brands like SuperValue and Centra and Donnybrook Fair. We're Ireland's largest private sector employer, employing over 35,000 people and partnering with over 1,000 independent retailers. That's us.
That's lovely. Thank you, Caroline. And Brendan Casey, would you introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Zita, and good morning, everybody. My name is Brendan Casey. I'm the CEO of SwiftQ Technologies, and at SwiftQ, we provide enterprise scheduling solutions for healthcare. So we work in primary care with GP practices in the community, and also within large acute hospitals and specialty clinics like radiology and oncology. And we work with customers in Ireland, the UK, and in North America and Canada as well.
Super, thanks very much. So 3 very different businesses there. And I think that makes the first question that I'm going to ask each of you rather interesting, which is how has COVID-19 impacted your business in 2020, and in particular in terms of how you've had to adapt to it? So Bobby, we'll start with you this time, and we'll mix it up every time. We've got 3 questions. Keep on your toes.
So how's COVID impacted us? Well, I'm glad to say that it's been an acceleration to our business and to our business plan, because if you think about the context that we're in, where we're asking cocooning people to stay indoors and avoid all human contact, yet we don't provide a way for them to get their medicine or their critical food supplies practically, and rely on volunteers or third parties to do that, any of which can also be infected. Then when you look at the drone platform, it's pretty obvious how a drone can benefit. So we can, and as we're doing now in Moneygall, we can carry everything from the pharmacy and from the local food stores directly to people, virus free. So we treat the packaging with UVC light before it leaves. The aircraft flies at 80 kilometers per hour straight to the home, and then it doesn't even land. It hovers about 15 meters and lowers the parcel down to the ground on a biodegradable linen thread. So it really is human free, and by a function of that, virus free. So the way that prior to COVID, most people, when you mention the word drone, they'll say word association, Gatwick Airport, missile, Afghanistan, noise, privacy. Those are the word association games that happen, and I would say it's very divisive technology in that young people love it and are well up for it, and older people, including people my age, have questions. And we've gone from a scenario just 2 months ago where there was a 60% acceptance rate of drones for delivery to over 90% acceptance rate. So what the new world has asked of everyone and incited in everyone is more thought around what practical technologies can be applied to help out, and drones are a clear winner here. So when we anticipated that, as did everyone, that the lockdown was imminent, and we prepared around that. We started to work with the HSE around providing a contingency plan that would allow us to do some flights to show what the tech stack would look like, and we rolled that out just really the day after the lockdown started in Moneygall, just to show the world, not to change the world by any means, but to show the world how drones could be used. And so it's been very positive impact from Anna. It's allowed us to demonstrate the tech. We're live still, carrying around products to people that are in there. Like I'm down there all the time. We have people in their 80s, their 70s, and their single-digit years using this technology equally. Some to order Fanta, some to order pharmacy. So it's been a great opportunity for Anna, I have to conclude.
That's great. Thanks, Bobby. I think that idea of leaps in consumer acceptance, allowing leaps in innovation or get into a market faster is just a really interesting concept at the moment. I also love that you're piloting in Moneygall, because I was saying to something yesterday, the only thing I know about Moneygall is Barack Obama Plaza. And this just cracks me up that it's now Barack Obama Plaza and drones. Not what you imagined. So Brendan Casey, we'll ask you the same question, please. How's COVID impacted your business?
Yeah, so like Bobby's experience, it has really accelerated over the last 2 months. So we already provided solutions within healthcare. So we were already working with the HSE and the NHS. And so there was two impacts for us. One was for all of our existing clinics and customers, because they had to change their models of care. So we had scenarios where hospitals were stopping patients coming to the main site and were delivering care in satellite locations, or enabling digital or video consultations for patients. So that was the first wave in terms of how to manage to keep delivering care to existing patients. And then very quickly it moved to implementing new referral pathways and new ways of providing solutions. So we have had customers who we've been talking to for months, who all of a sudden, overnight stood up 8 or 10 new locations so that they could deliver care for across the NHS. So that's gave us a challenge in terms of how do you do things remotely, where usually you have teams on site, or implementations and onboarding is done over a course of a few weeks, whereas all of these things were starting to happen within hours and days. So it's been great in terms of the increased demand, and I suppose the receptivity of the healthcare system to be able to adapt like that. And so the feedback's been very positive from patients and from all of the carers and family members, because they now have I suppose a mechanism to see and to know what's going to happen for them. And I think in the NHS that was one of the key things for them. And then in Ireland, we've been working with the HSE as part of providing the COVID-19 test centres. And again, this is using existing solutions that we have been working on for a number of years, but it's just applying them in a different scale, and to provide a national solution very quickly, and to do an immediate rollout. And we're definitely seeing the benefit of that, and we're also seeing in terms of the next stage in terms of how COVID-19 responses are happening. And that's not just in Ireland, that's in the UK, and more recently in Canada, where we've been involved as well. And so it's been a busy 2 months, but we've certainly I suppose been able to deliver and capitalize on what Bobby was saying in terms of that, the need for a technical solution where the traditional models are no longer scalable or able to be delivered through social distancing. So it's an opportunity, and we're already talking to existing customers and new customers who are planning on their next stage in terms of what they're going to do post COVID-19. And certainly the big learning from this has been that digital solutions provide much more scalable options, and allow people to cope and manage much more quickly than they may have done in the past. So it's been an interesting time all around.
Super. Thanks, Brendan. And I think some ideas there. I mean, the ability to, well, first of all, it's a catalyst for rapid business change and growth. But with that, you're not only just innovating with your existing clients, but onboarding new clients and large clients like HSEs with technology where it might not necessarily be their main area of expertise, or indeed their main focus in the middle of something so big. So it's a really, I suppose, interesting time for a company to grow with this market, but equally deal with very big players in the market. And I'm really pleased to hear that idea of the acceptance of digital solutions as an important way to scale and grow beyond COVID. I think that's reassuring for everyone in tech in this talk this morning. Okay, so Caroline Walsh, over to you. How has your business been impacted by COVID-19?
Yeah, so Isha, I suppose, in terms of our area as a product team, we're very much a forward-looking team, and we've a seamless shopping plan for each and all of our brands right out to 2025 in terms of forward planning, and we deliver that through kind of product management methodology. Our roadmap for new products and features is very much driven by our understanding of customers and their needs. And we're closely linked to, obviously, colleagues and in the CX and Insights team to understand the Irish consumer and what we can do to positively impact them and grow our market share. And obviously for 2020, we did a range of initiatives. We wanted to validate some, deliver others, and obviously just optimize some in-life products and services that we supply via our brands. And look, COVID has changed, obviously, consumers' behaviour overnight, and we're expecting that will continue over the coming years. So people who just didn't feel, I suppose, ready to embrace certain tech or weren't bought into the advantages of just using them, kind of obviously suddenly engage with them as a safe way to shop. And like, I guess everybody understands, like, online is the major story here, online grocery shopping, which is kind of obviously one of the slowest sectors probably globally to adopt online and e-commerce in the past, albeit growing in the last number of years. Online obviously has online grocery shopping has changed significantly overnight, along with obviously contactless usage in store as well, which is a similar story. So just to talk about online for a few minutes, like, online grew phenomenally. It's achieved its 2025 targets by March, and obviously just such a surge in growth was challenging, continues to be challenging for us and our retailers, and obviously all competitors. Like, we needed to ensure that we had the capacity to keep the website stable with its absolutely highest ever volumes, and for that, those sustained volumes as well. To pick those orders and the customers' orders in the store, to have the stock to fulfill that order, and then to deliver it in a safe way for the customer, and our drivers, our staff, our people obviously are really important in terms of delivering on this to our customers. So look, from an end to end of that journey, we mobilised to support stores in finding new staff. We redeployed colleagues from different parts of our business into the retail business, and we sourced a load of extra devices for in-store pickers. We secured vans for stores, and we brought new stores online. We implemented new safety protocols and staffed up phone teams to support customers and retailers as they encountered issues. So, like, I guess it was end to end, quite a lot involved with that. And I guess it's not just SuperValu is the shout out here. Centra, actually a convenience retailer, rolled out delivery and click and collect services in a matter of weeks. So these retailers who know grocery online selling plans, technology or training got online in a matter of weeks. And obviously to do that in a test store or a singular store would have been an achievement, but my team has done it in over 70 stores, and that continues to grow week on week. In store, obviously, we've implemented a variety of safety protocols too. And look, these aren't necessarily tech initiatives, but again, just in the context of people and safety of people. As I was saying earlier to the team, like, these are our own frontline heroes. So some of these initiatives were mandatory to make sure that we could service and keep the healthy people of Ireland healthy. So a preventative measure. So some of these were like, I guess, perspex in front of the checkouts for the operators, floor markings, and we're testing some contactless solutions or at least digital solutions in terms of queue monitoring. So yeah, that's us, Isha.
Lovely, thank you, Caroline. I think that idea that you had a roadmap, you had a plan, and you did that the right way. It was customer built and so on, and then it's just out the window because your customer has changed so much. And I think that rate of change is a really interesting one to look at, and all of the realities behind needing to implement a new technology, from the tech stack and keeping everything you have secure as it's under huge demand, but then equally the operational and staff challenges around that. And that point that I suppose it isn't really happening in a vacuum. We're doing all this at a time where we have challenges about keeping people like staff safe and well is really interesting context for people too. So as you can see, we are running our second poll, and okay, looks like we're seeing an awful lot of respondents saying that your business is responding to COVID and innovating in an innovative manner. So that's really good to hear. So we'll give everybody a minute for that poll. Okay. So, yeah, and I think we saw some common kind of themes there across your answers: the rate of change, the need to move fast. Um, some so across industries, these same kind of technical trends, which is very interesting. Okay, so we move on to our next question, which is: do you think COVID-19 is the catalyst for digital transformation now? And Brendan Casey, we'll start with you this time.
Thanks, Ida. Well, so I suppose we would always see that digital transformation is the subject for a lot of projects that we do within healthcare, and we've been engaging, for months and sometimes years on some projects. So what COVID-19 has done is, like Bobby and Caroline has said, it's really accelerated that digital adoption. And I think people are now seeing the challenges that are there and how innovative approaches can solve that. So we definitely see that there has been a mind shift, that there is now a view of looking at digital first, and seeing how you can provide that digital front door, in our case for patients, but also then for all of the connections and the referral pathways, not just within a one hospital or one clinic, but across primary care, community care, and connecting up all of the healthcare network. So definitely we're seeing that there's an opportunity there, and we have calls from people at the moment who are seeing that opportunity is there for them to implement it, and to, it's like we've had one NHS trust that has implemented a project where that would have ordinarily taken them months. What they've done is they've been able to provide a number of locations with a service that has been, I suppose, implemented very quickly, but also to respond to a specific challenge. So in the NHS, they have a challenge for shielded patients, and these are patients who need to be managed at home and supported by clinicians and by healthcare workers through the course of their condition. And this has, I suppose, given the opportunity to put in place a connected ecosystem between all of the various stakeholders in delivering that care. And so that's one good example. And we're definitely seeing others then in Ireland with the COVID-19 test centres and the assessment centres. And now with people looking at how they return to normal, or how to return to a phase basis of opening up clinics and departments and being able to see patients either face to face if it's required, but also to be able to introduce the video consultations, or more distributed attendance at clinics, so that you don't need to come to the main hospital site in Dublin. You can go to a location closer to where you live, whether that's in the suburbs or anywhere else within the country. So we are definitely seeing that COVID-19 has opened up people's perspectives as to how you traditionally would deliver care, and certainly looking to use existing solutions, but also I've seen quite a few calls for new initiatives or new developments, both within Ireland, within the UK, and across Europe, where there's been a number of digital challenges where they're asking for innovative companies or startups from other industries to bring their experience to the table and to help complement what is already there.
Lovely, thanks, Brendan. So, yeah, I think that idea that the change in mind shift, the move to digital first, as a really important part of the catalyst, I guess, right? And then I love that last point about the cross-industry collaboration, and that by bringing people who don't normally sit in a room together, that we might get faster innovation, a different type of innovation. That's really interesting.
One of the things I'll add there is that at the start of this, I suppose I deal a lot with other digital health companies, and everybody was very busy, either working with existing customers or as part of a a response for a Department of Health or HSE or NHS project. So what we then started to engage with was with other companies who were not as busy in the current climate. So we're working in Maynooth University, and there's a range of other startups in the area. So we were able to tap into other companies who their normal business model wasn't as busy as usual. So then they were able to divert some of their resources to other challenges, or to be able to get involved. So it is everybody working together, but definitely bringing a different experience to the table, as well as their skills and a new perspective.
That's great. I don't know if people would have thought you'd have seen that kind of level of collaboration, and it's super to hear it's there and that it's happening right now. And I'm sure that we might hear more examples of it from Caroline and from Bobby. So actually, yeah, Caroline, we'll ask you this question next, please. So is COVID-19 the catalyst for digital innovation in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I just going back to that online, the adoption rates here have shown our customers are willing to try new things when it comes to tech, and that means that we can start to validate and release new products that we didn't think the Irish consumer was arguably ready for yet. So, like some examples in terms of increased adoption, like would be the likes of Centra opening online grocery shopping for the very first time. And there's a whole plethora of Irish artisan producers opening online solutions to sell their produce, which is normally sold at farmers markets, now going online as well. So like there are new offerings brought to market, like through food boxes. I'm sure many of you will see those. So to keep online shopping as easy and as fast as possible, we've seen retailers bring different types of boxes to market, and we've seen this globally. Some are obviously aimed at the vulnerable and the cocooned society, or healthcare workers, like a solution that Morrison's in the UK is doing as a click and collect for the NHS. Our own Donnybrook Fair business has just released boxes for the Dublin area too. So this kind of ease of shopping and all your essential supplies, or indeed all your meals for the week, is obviously a huge growth area. Probably additionally, looking at more stores embracing click and collect as well. Is it even a different channel, and adapting the service to be contactless. Click and collect was one of the big things. So we've launched more click and collect sites right across the market, and Super Value Merchants Key here in Cork is one that you'll see for the Cork people on, and our drive-through service obviously in Super Value Carrigaline. So just again, more consumers embracing these kind of contactless click and collect services. I guess additionally, we've got innovations globally that we can see, robots doing 80 hours a week of deliveries in Milton Keynes, using AI vending machines and smart lockers in China. So I think the increased digital adoption and role for digital services is phenomenal. And obviously what we've just heard from Brendan and what we're hearing from Bobby in terms of the drone work is all evidence to support the digital transformation agenda, and that this is helping to accelerate it.
Lovely, thanks Caroline. So that idea again, we're hearing it again, of customers being willing to try new things. So new service offerings or new products like online for Centra. I guess a lot of people wouldn't necessarily thought they needed that until a scenario not like now. And I guess that's that product kind of mindset of solving problems as they emerge for customers. So we're seeing new problems for COVID, so new solutions, new opportunities to solve them. And then new twists on existing products, making a click and collect contactless. And just that general then, and nice, important point for everybody in this room, that there's an increased role for digital services and products now, which is good for our industry for sure. So Bobby Healy, then how about you? Is this a catalyst for change for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the word I would use would be behavior. When usually a new technology is created and it disrupts and creates a giant opportunity by modifying consumer behavior, by attracting consumers to modify their behavior to adapt a new tech or a new way of working, and a new industry is created. So, and there's so many of them, so many instances of that, and that's the normal flow. it's unusual that, you know, of course, it's unusual that a pandemic comes along and hits the reset button and completely forces everybody, government entities, state entities, people, families, businesses, everybody has to rethink their behavior and be, I won't say more open, but reset their expectations around how they're going to live, how they're going to interact with each other, how they're going to conduct commerce, how they're going to, as businesses, function and carry out that commerce or commercial activity. So there's a complete reset at the moment going on as people rethink what the world is going to normalize to and what behaviors will change and how, from my point of view and people like me, how to position yourself to take advantage of that. And it's just pure coincidence that I'm building a drone delivery business for the last 3 years that, you know, would be exactly what you would do post pandemic. And so for me, the catalyst is it's around anticipating or understanding what behavior will go back to in the next, you know, few years, to be able to, and I hate to use the word because it's such a cliche, but to pivot the business into and dovetail with what that next 2 or 3 years looks like. For a VC invested business, which is what we are, it's a really good opportunity to suddenly you're a much more attractive horse, where investors are going to be looking around for opportunities to deploy capital. They're going to be the question now on every investor's mind, both private equity, VC, and even public market investors, is going to be who benefits from the new world, who's a net, you know, gainer and who's a net loser. And it's obvious, unless you've been living under a rock, that automation, robotics, and any technology that allows people to stay at home, Zoom that we're all using today, is a perfect example. Netflix, and I could list a long list of net beneficiaries, but capital, particularly VC and high risk capital, will move towards sectors, components, industries, businesses that will benefit. So for me, the catalyst is, again, it's behavioral and it's forced behavioral change. So in other words, you know, consumers and governments don't have a choice here. There's really an existential threat to old ways, like going to a restaurant, you know, eating in, going to, like, there's just it's not going to make sense for 18, 24, 36 months to be in tight spaces with lots of people. So that is the, you know, the manganese dioxide of this mix here. And for us, we're going to do a number of different things. So while the technology and the platform is not going to change, it is what it is. It's an aircraft. We're going to be asking more of regulators. We're going to be, you know, working more. We'd always planned to do pharmacy and non-food delivery items, but perhaps pharmacy will be more of a priority for us now. And also, we were always going to power online players, so food companies, like people may have seen that we did a deal with Just Eat a few months ago to do drone delivery for Just Eat, and that's perfectly valid in the future as well. But we may also look at governments and say, okay, we ask the HSE or the Irish government or any other government for that matter, why don't we work together to be ready for the next wave of this pandemic or for another pandemic, and have a solution ready to deploy that could form part of the testing regime. So why couldn't we deploy a fleet of drones that deliver test kits to people and pick them up? So you have zero human contact, you know, testing of a population, and that's achievable with drones. So for me, the catalyst is more ambition, I think, different use cases, the opportunity. You know, it's kind of, we're much more important now in a much shorter time frame. And then if you look around the world, I think Caroline called out some good examples that I know well. So Starship in Milton Keynes doing on the ground little buggies that carry stuff around, and a great, great solution and opportunity for that company. Alphabet, Google's parents have a drone delivery program. Most people don't even know this, but Alphabet have been for 2 years delivering by drone in Australia and in the United States. So small population, about 20,000 people, that they are carrying around food, Walgreens pharmacy, and food to local residents. So, we're not just some crazy company in Ireland that, want to play with drones and do some cool stuff. Alphabet has spent $500 million on their drone delivery program and are very serious about a future with drone delivery and have been for quite some time. So for me, yes, this is a huge catalyst, but it's less about, changing our original plans, definitely modifying them, but more about opening up hearts and minds to what a future looks like with true robotic last mile delivery. And whereas there would have been some friction, quite a bit of friction in that thinking, now it's an open door. Like, we have inbound from, countries all around the world, cities, local governments, non-profits, NGOs, about humanitarian blood delivery, vaccine delivery, you name it. We're getting inbounds from everyone. Obviously, we're not ready for that. We're a small company, 25 people, but it's just since this pandemic hit, you can see if inbounds and contacts and diversity of them are a barometer for what the world's going to look like in the future, we know that we're in a really good place, and you can bet that you're going to see drone delivery coming to your back garden in the next 12 to 24 months. Absolutely certain of that.
I can't tell you how excited I am about that, by the way. My suggestion in nearly every team meeting is drones. We're going to run our third poll now, and while it's running, I'm just going to recap some of that. I love the idea of when we've hit the reset button, we've turned it on and off again, and that changes how we're thinking about how we do everything, and that's that disruptor, that driver of behavior, and it wasn't a choice, as in this case it was just happening. So rethinking the new normal and how you position yourself out there, and that idea too, that now as a company, you can't look to today. You need to understand that next few years of change and turbulence. We've seen a changed consumer and a changed need for different products in the last few months, but it's going to change again, and it's understanding those next few plays. And I think two really interesting things that you brought up, Bobby, is the idea of partners. So for investors, that this is actually a bit of a big moment of potential shift with investors, and that understanding that VC landscape and what they're going to focus on based on their interpretation of the next few years is super important. And the last I love is that the idea of friction, and it occurred to me while you were talking, and Brendan, you too, when you were talking about some of the clients you work with, like the HSE, for example, that in Bobby's case, it's the regulators, the aviation authorities, that maybe you just have a bit more of an open mind with people who are traditionally very cautious and risk averse. And by the way, neither of you have told me this about your partners or the third parties you work with. This is my guess. But the other thing that I'd imagine is the speed of onboarding into a large company, particularly a government body like the HSE, that normally you maybe don't do that as quickly as you've achieved that, Brendan. And again, it's this reset button. We suddenly have to move faster. We can't spend months on things. I'd love to know. One of my pet hates in life is doing DPIAs for new technology. And I just imagine that the time you've had to spend on them in the last few months, they're probably a bit faster, just straight to the point, and getting that done so you can get live rather than having to spend a lot of time in the bureaucracy that can delay innovation. That's my guess, by the way, as I said, rather than either of you saying that. And if it's not true in your industries, I imagine it might be true in some others. We'll jump on to our last question, and then we're going to open to Q&A. This is going to be a relatively quick question for our panel, but audience, that gives you about 5 more minutes at the most to put in your Q&A questions. Shane, who's working here in the background, is watching all of those come in, and we'll get to them in the next 5 minutes. So the question we're going to ask is, what advice would you give to companies impacted by COVID-19? And Caroline, we will start with you.
Okay, thanks, Ita. Just keeping this really, really tight, I think there are three main things to look for here and to focus on, and that's, you need to focus on your shoppers' needs and wants. That's the first and foremost thing. And then you need to design a solution with them through service design and product management, work iteratively on it. And I think in the context of where we're at and what we're facing, I think it's important that we're winning in the short term with a keen eye to the longer term in terms of how you scale these innovations, how you make them profitable. So it's about winning in the short term with a keen eye to the long term to make sure they're sustainable and that they'll work into the future for our businesses. So they would be my 3 points, Ita.
And I'm going to move straight over to you, Bobby.
I mean, so my advice though is to don't take advice from people like me. But the way I think about, I certainly, inside my head, the way I'm thinking about and acting around this is, separate to being an opportunity. So just, if I was a normal company, I know the way I'm thinking about my company, and I'm involved on the board of Cartrawler as well, and a bunch of other businesses. So I kind of see a recurring common pattern from the CEOs, including myself, and it's about two things. It's about one, and by far the most emergency, the most critical, and immediate response you need to make is around the leadership of the people that are working for you and the team, and it's around communications, increasing your communications to them, leading them through this uncertainty, trying in as much as you can to provide clarity on what the future may or may not look like for them in the company, for their careers, for the health of your own business, and giving them the confidence. It's like, parenting their children, they're looking to you for, confident signs and confident signals, and that's about communications and leadership. And that is the first one that I would and do go to. So my advice, and quickly, is show leadership and do it through communications, clear, consistent, and truthful communications around what the future looks like. And that word truthful is massive. It has to be warts and all what's going to happen, what may or may not happen, and that's key. And then secondly, on the other side, on your customer side, I think it's about helping customers understand what normal it looks like now and what a baseline looks like going forward, what to expect. Like if you're a retailer, if you're a restaurant, or whatever your business is, and certainly if there's a human contact element to it, I think you need to provide leadership to your customers in defining what normal and good will look like and what they should expect. And again, as a derivative of that you're a leader in the space and you're a trusted brand that is showing them what normal is going to look like, and you're going to be safe. We've thought about this. What we're doing. Our brand now is what it always was, and there's care and consideration in what we're thinking about and doing for our customers. So it's an extension of branding, I think, but it's incorporating the new world into it.
Great, thanks, Bobby. And right, Brendan, over to you then.
So I think definitely the world has changed, and the pandemic has I suppose turned things on its head. So we're seeing that there's a lot more new opportunities, and for startups and innovators, I suppose you have to look at where the ball is going and to think how you can bring new solutions, and take a risk, and identify something and go for that. And that I certainly know a number of companies that have had to pivot very quickly because their existing business models haven't been sustainable. So that's one thing. The other though is probably, and Bobby and Caroline have touched on it, and that's partnerships, because there are a lot of, I suppose, large companies who are also being challenged, and they have the existing engagements in a number of sectors, a number of industries, and they're looking for innovation to come to support and help them as well. So I think it's quite difficult for people to be cold calling at the moment. Like Bobby, we're getting a lot of inbound requests and referrals from existing customers, but so I think working with partners is a quick way in terms of being able to respond quite quickly. But I think definitely the next 3, 6, 9 months is going to be very challenging as people try to get back to a sense of normal. But then in terms of, as I say, the world has changed. So what's going to happen in the next 2, 3 years? I think we'll be back on and having another webcast discussing what our predictions were and what actually happened. But so the advice I give to any company is go for it, and don't be waiting for it to come to you. You've got to get up and get out there. And I think Bobby and Caroline will testify to that as well.
I mean, I think that's a really solid piece of advice to end that section with. That was all really great advice. Focusing on your customers' needs and wants, designing solutions with them, winning in the short term, taking those opportunities, but equally keeping a keen eye on the long term and sustainability and profit. But at the same time, not being afraid to look for new opportunities, new solutions, and take risks, and the role of partnerships in that, looking at the next 2 or 3 years. And then around leadership, showing that leadership inside your company to your own team with increased communication. And I think authentic and truthful leadership to give confidence, but that same authentic and truthful leadership with your customers so that they understand that you know what the new normal looks like and that you can help them in this area. So really, really good advice. Okay, so we're doing our last poll, and we're on track to finish at 9 o'clock. Normally we try to give 5 minutes for people to get out the door and get to their office. The great thing here is to get to your office, you close one application and open another. So we'll run right to 9 o'clock, but let's get some questions in. So I'm going to navigate to the Q&A, and Larry O'Donoghue, you have the first question, and Larry is asking, Caroline, what have the growth rates been in home delivery and click and collect services since COVID?
Significant is what I would say. Looking at 3, 4, and 5 time fold our initial business. So quite substantial, as I said, like 2025 volumes that we had projected kind of being delivered in March of this year.
Okay, and you mentioned hitting your 2025 goals this year as well, which is a great day in the office, I'd imagine. Yeah. Okay, and actually, Caroline, the next question is for you too, which is, how have your staff received the changes that have been made in the business?
Yeah, we were talking about this briefly earlier. I think the staff is, like our employees, our wide-scale network of employees in terms of like employees directly in Musgrave and our retailers have responded really well. I think proud to be able to keep Ireland healthy, keep Ireland's supply chain, running in such a fundamental crisis. And I think our team, our wide scale team, has done that with a real passion and energy and love for everything they do, and consider themselves, as I say, kind of frontline heroes in terms of this current challenge that we're facing. So they've responded fantastically right across the board, I would suggest.
Lovely, thank you, and thanks for that question, Anthony O'Reilly. So the next question is for you, Bobby, is from Peter Kelly, and he wants to know, are you moving your focus away from food delivery after COVID, or does that remain your focus?
Yeah, I've actually answered some questions, texting them to the audience. Oh. If you can click on the answer tab, you'll see some of my other answers. So to Peter, it's a good question. Yeah, we always had plans for pharmacy, convenience store, and both prepared food and non-prepared food, as well as coffee in the morning, butcher, fishmonger, you name it. But the way we've thought about it is not, sorry, the reason we've gone with prepared food first is because that's the highest volume driver. And because we're a capital intensive business, you need volume and transactions to offset the heavy cost of the capital. So food being the most high volume, that will get the utilization of our aircraft up to the maximum. So we haven't chosen food because it's necessarily everyone wants to see hamburgers flying around in the sky, but because it's the most capital efficient driver for the aircraft. But our mission is much more broad than that, and we want to be absolutely everything in the local community delivered directly to everybody in the local community. So any reason you need to leave your house, or that you need to get in your car or order a delivery to your house, we want to replace road-based delivery with drone-based delivery.
Lovely. Okay, a lot of ambition there, Robbie. That's great. Stefan has the next question, and he says, "Hi to all, and thanks for the session." And it says, "How do you make yourself more visible to your target audience during this time? I mean, how do you reach companies and businesses that would require your help to push forward and make use of your service as a springboard to make better use of the digital world?" And Brendan, was it you had mentioned earlier that it's a difficult time to cold call?
I imagine it would be, in terms of the people who need your help are focused on solving their challenges, but you got to try. And I think if you can't get in the front door, you have to look at partners or trusted recommenders to be able to make that connection for you. So it's not about, I suppose, hoping that they will come to find you. You have to be proactive and see, engage with them. Obviously, don't cause problems, but also look at alternative connections within your network or within trusted partners who can help you get in front and deliver your solution.
Okay, so partners and network. We've one more question in the open. I have a technical question. Shane, you might even just tell me, can the audience see the questions that have been answered? Because I'm ignoring them if they have an answer right now to try to get through them all. But while Shane, you can tell me that. Gillian had the last question, which is, we are implementing new technologies at unprecedented speed because need is outweighing everything and time is a luxury we don't have now. What risk mitigation procedures are you implementing to ensure any negative impacts are mitigated quickly? Do you have any examples of those?
So I'll add in there that I suppose, with a software platform, there's a number of processes that you have to go through as part of your testing and your releasing. So there's, even though you are working at speed, you have existing processes and procedures in place in QA and testing. So while you're not planning a big upgrades at the moment, you're doing incremental updates, and you still have to ensure that you have quality and testing and all of your normal I suppose procedures to protect you, because the worst, you certainly can't turn something on that doesn't work. It has to work, and I'm sure Caroline is nodding. She sees the importance of that if you turn on something that's available online to hundreds and thousands of customers, it has to work, and it has to work first time. So I suppose the attention to detail and testing and quality is as important now as it ever was. So a fast problem isn't a solution. It for the sake of a couple of more hours or a day, you need to make sure that it's done and done right.
Yeah, I'd concur, Brendan. Like, one step forward, two steps back is the phrase, and look, governance is key in terms of all of these things. And arguably, they're kind of the hard decisions to make, because obviously pace and the pace of deliverables is what everyone's after. But I think governance is key throughout this process as well.
Okay, well, I have really enjoyed this tech talk. I think it's been a great one, and a really positive, actually, and uplifting story at a bit of a crazy time, that, there is good to come from this. There is opportunity to innovate and help people who need help in new ways. So I want to thank, on behalf of IT at Cork, I want to thank all of the panelists for their time three different industries, but three very interesting points of view. So thank you to Brendan Casey from SwiftQ, and thank you to Bobby Healy from Mana, and thank you to Caroline Walsh from Musgrave. I think if we were in a room, we'd be getting a very large round of applause right now. Instead, you just get mine. And then lastly, thank you to the audience for dialing in. Keep an eye on the ITR Cork website. We will have another talk later this month. So while we're at home, we'll get a few more tech talks in than we normally would in person. Keep everybody up to date with what's happening. So stay tuned and stay safe. Thanks everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.